Hello everyone and welcome to Toyah at Home. Our week and our lives are trundling on, but we are getting busier and busier. In the past 7 days, I think I've made about 6 programs for Channel 5. 3 came as a surprise. I was asked to step in an emergency and it was an honour to do that. Posh Pop is near completion. The artwork has started and every 2 days of the week, I do videos for the video album. So everything is coming together, and within an hour, I learn the shooting schedule for Tribute Act, the movie I was supposed to make earlier in the year. We think it's going to happen, which is fantastic, which means I'm going to have to move to Portugal for 6 weeks, but I'm not complaining about that. Your questions this week are fantastic, and we're going to start with 2 questions from Jeff Middick and Lance Timberlake. Jeff, you say, how do we keep in good shape and what do we eat regularly? And Lance, you say, any advice on healthy eating? You've eaten meat for a long while. Cooking and eating for one can be tricky, totally understood. It's the same cooking for 2, especially if you're following the same pattern for the year. Do you have any healthy eating tips? Well, I'm going to call Robert in for this one because Robert and I, come here, my love bug.
Hello, sweet-lipped wife, I have been summoned.
We, for how many years, have been part of G Labs?
Probably 3 years.
Okay. And how would you explain G Labs?
Well, the way I explain it to myself is it's an electronic and sophisticated software version of homeopathy.
Yes, and you were going to explain these.
These are the dongles. Now, when I went to Don Hardiman, my pal and homeopath in Bournemouth, he would measure me up with his pendulum.
Okay, now G Labs, Robert has more dongles than I do. I only have 3 dongles. They all have our DNA in, and this was developed for Tim Peake when he was in the space station for 6 months. Science needed to find out the deterioration of his muscles and the deterioration of calcium in his bones. So they designed this tracking system, which is what we're wearing. They're dongles. They have our DNA in that links to a main hub where our DNA is measured, and this is now quite a common science. So what our DNA is measured for is what we're born with. We're born with traits that we can potentially develop that are negative to our health. So through diet, the idea is we keep those traits dormant. Everything we eat not only gives us nutrition and vibrational energy from its growth pattern, but it also can trigger inflammation. So the whole idea of these dongles is once a month, our diet is completely changed. We're sent a diet sheet, and believe me, this works. We are measured on the last day of every month for what is causing inflammation. Whatever we eat on that last day, and we have tried this for 4 years now to trick the system, we will be banned from eating the following month. The tracking system has picked up marshmallows, it's picked up wine gums, it's picked up tequila. We cannot hide what we eat from this tracking system. And the way it works is we are all vibration. So it's the way your mobile phone can track things. It's the way that Apple and Amazon know the conversations you've had and say that you've been talking about a certain LP. It will suddenly appear on Spotify. We are so easy to track in every part of our lifestyle. And food and what we eat completely changes our vibrational body. Therefore, it can be tracked. I've tried to explain that simply. Would you agree?
Yes, essentially it's good for us to be skeptical, but in terms of proof positive, our results with this over the past 3 or 4 years, I've got to say that I've become a believer.
It's absolutely extraordinary. So if you look up DNA diet, it's a very similar thing. We've just gone the step further that we're actually tuned in to someone's machine. And even when I have days where I'm not feeling well, or if I'm feeling down, they can detune that. They can retune it out of me. I just send an email. I say, I really need lifting today. I'm struggling. And they just detune that out of my system. And you feel it happening like that. And this is the way of the future. And one of the reasons we're telling you this with pride is we really hope the NHS can pick up on this, because it keeps you well. Jeff and Lance, you ask what we eat. So we're going to show you this month's kind of to-do list. For my breakfast, and I am not a huge eater, I hate feeling full, my breakfast is a palmful of nuts. So here we've got almonds, we've also got hazelnuts, there's usually pecans, there's walnuts. I have a handful of unsulfured dried apricots because they just help my whole system digest well. And if I'm feeling really starving, I have a date. I know it's very sugary. And then an hour later, I have a papaya. This is slightly overripe, but it's wonderful. So we have a lot of fruit in the house. If I'm performing, I need fruit. But to be honest, to get through a show, all I need to get through a show on stage is an orange. Again, very sugary, and diabetics are only allowed one orange a week, but that gives me enough energy to get through a show. I encourage Robert to eat whole wheat wraps, and I discourage everyone to eat commercial white flour. Processed flour is not good for you. We flavour with ginger. We eat a lot of white cabbage, red cabbage, a lot of kale, and in the evening we make kale chips by just lightly drizzling them with a seed oil like sunflower oil, putting them in the oven for about 5 minutes, and then they're lovely and crisp. We eat a lot of spinach. And then generally everything else is a stir fry. We're vegetarian, but once or twice a week we eat fish because we need the protein. I really miss eggs, but we are very rarely allowed to eat eggs because the yolk is very high in fat. Even though it's now believed that the yolks are good cholesterol, we don't really eat them. So what's your favourite kind of thing to eat?
I love my salads. Now this chicory or endives, this is stunning. Cut up with blue cheese, mold cheese, this is exceptionally tasty. But for a very simple, quick meal...
we don't always have cow's milk, so you can get really brilliant vegan cheese that's based on coconut. It's fabulous.
One very simple, quick snack for me is a pile of spinach in a wrap, maybe with a little hummus in it. That is very satisfying. Good meal for me to keep me going.
Yes, that's his evening meal. Neither of us eat after 6 in the evening. Now, this is vital if you want to keep your weight down at our age. It sounds brutal, it sounds draconian, but we've just learnt the hard way. We cannot eat after 6 in the evening, so that's when Robert has a wrap. I have breakfast, Robert skips breakfast. He has a very large latte. That's his breakfast. I have 11s, which tends to be a banana or a tangerine and a handful of nuts. And then we have a massive lunch. Absolutely massive. And when I say massive, there's no carbohydrate. So it's a stir fry of all these ingredients. About once a week, we will allow ourselves to share a potato, which we slice and we kind of do in oil in the oven. Sweet potatoes we are allowed, but again, it can be carbohydrate. Now, this doesn't go with everyone's taste. This is okra. It's phenomenal. It has iron. It's so important for our age group. Very hard to get. Most Asian markets will do it. Waitrose does it. It's really important. Some people hate it. Some people can't digest it. But it really is so nutritious. And we try and eat that every day. So I said we have a large lunch. After lunch, we will actually tuck in to half a melon each. So we are full for the rest of the day. But all of us need little treats. So I want to show you what I allow myself for in the afternoon. 70% chocolate. It's so rich you'll only want 1 or 2 pieces. Perhaps a marshmallow. Yes, a marshmallow. All sugar and egg white. These are vegetarian because remember marshmallow has gelatin in, and the same with wine gums. But that is it. That is the treat, the daily treat. And if I am filming, I need carbohydrate, so I just go for oat biscuits. And they are fantastic. I allow myself to. Same when I'm doing a vocal. Would you agree that sounds healthy?
This sounds very, very healthy indeed, dear. And on that subject, I'm off to the gym for my weightlifting now.
And I'm on to the next question. Lots of love, Robert. See you in a minute. Mwah. Christina, you say you love my artwork, and have I ever wanted to be involved with fashion? And I'm going to pick up on that in a minute, but I just wanted to show you all, I have finally finished the icons for the album artwork. They look absolutely beautiful. They're going to feature in the videos as stained glass windows. So I'm now getting ready to do a limited edition of those that will actually be for sale, but not immediately because I've just got so much going on. I'm working 7 days a week. We're going to have our first song now, and this is a really fun version of Latex Messiah, which is off in the Court of the Crimson Queen. It's at the Water Rats with Chris Wong, John Humphrey, Mike Nichols, and the late great Colin Hines. Enjoy.
Silly Billy being a naughty boy, gone and broken all your toys. He's a whore for television, cracked up in submission, bipolar supervision, found and gagged rubber vision, pandemic, polyanic, schizophrenic, epidemic, and he doing will he take it, will he make it? Pandemic, polyanic, schizophrenic, epidemic, and he doing will he take it, will he make it? Or just break it. Thought you had a vision, a wet dream religion. It's an execution of the rebel in you, a people, a revolution. Bring out the disillusion. They're an institution. You should have stayed in bed. I hear you into tantric sex. You filmed it all through pink latex. Made all the rags hardcore. Stripped and filleted and looking so. Pandemic, polyanic, schizophrenic, epidemic, and they do him, will he take it, will he make it? Pandemic, polyanic, schizophrenic, epidemic, and they do him, will he take it, will he make it? Or just break it. Thought you had a vision, a wet dream religion. It's an execution of the rebel in you, a people, a revolution. Bring out the disillusion. They're an institution. You should have stayed in bed. So, there you are, looking so pretty and pink. And I say to you, is that legal? Pandemic, polyanic, schizophrenic, epidemic, and they do it, will he think it, will he make it, or just break it? Thought you had a vision, a wet dream religion. It's an execution of the rebel in you. People, a revolution.
was Latex Messiah, recorded at the Water Rats with the Toyah Band quite a few years ago. I think it was probably about 4 years ago, and the Water Rats is in King's Cross. Latex Messiah is off the album In the Court of the Crimson Queen. Now, Lance and Jeff, you asked me, how do I keep fit? Well, this is one of the reasons I keep fit. Just have a look up the stairwell. Can you see? I do that stairwell, which in all is actually 5 floors. I probably do it, I think the most was 90 times in one day, because my costume room is on the top floor, but at least 20 times a day, to the point my trainer says I have to find an alternative way of getting up there or I'm going to damage myself. But that keeps me fit. I'm carrying stuff up and down these stairs all day long. I want to answer Tex Ritter's question. He said, how was it to play the bad guy in Minder? I loved doing Minder. To meet George Cole, who, when I did Minder, this was about 1979, 1980, George Cole was an absolute legend. I grew up with him in such great movies. And when I say great movies, the great black and white movies of the Ealing Studios. They were comedies. They were St. Trinian's films. He was always playing a charming cad. And here I was on Minder in the late 70s working with him. And I was able to firstly tell my parents that I'm on Minder, which was the biggest show at the time. And I was playing the baddie. I loved doing it. I don't have huge memories of it, other than I had to wear a cat suit and I had to be a little bit foxy and a very, very big cow in it. My character was not nice at all in it. It was such an honour to do TV like that. And back then, TV had millions of viewers. It was guaranteed. Minder would probably have had 20 million viewers, sometimes higher. So you were on something of great visibility, and I loved it. I always loved playing the baddie anyway. It's the most rewarding thing to play. Baddies are so easy to work out up in the head. We are all brought up to have a filter, and most of us use that filter. Baddies don't, and that's so liberating. Thank you so much for that question, Tex. It was a really nice walk down memory lane. Michael Murray, you say, who did I write the brilliant song Tears for Ellie about? And this is off Toyah Solo. It was a demo that I wrote with Phil Nichols, a lovely, lovely dance producer who has a dance kind of name called Mombasa. And I adored working with him. I'd love to work with him again. And Tears for Ellie came about because at the time, this was about 1991, my manager, a huge Uber manager at the time called John Roseman, and I feel I can mention his name because he has written an autobiography. His wife passed away, his wife Pearl, and I moved in with the family to help the children basically get them clothed, fed and dressed. The children at the time, one was Ellie. She was, I think, the second eldest, and she was only about 10, 11, 12. And there were 4 children. One was as young as 5 and the other was about 16. And this tragedy was unfurling. Pearl had cancer for quite a long time, and we just decided there needed to be women about the house to help the house run and to help the children make this transition. The children are absolutely phenomenal. I wasn't. I was broken and in tears and not coping with it well. And a best friend moved in as well. So there was 2 females in the house, helping the house run, helping the children, explaining to the children what was happening and why it was happening, getting them ready for the funeral. And I was working with Phil at the same time in the studio making demos. And I wanted to write a song for Ellie, because Ellie was the only female remaining in the house after her mother passed away. And the song was about trying to get her out of bed in the morning. Obviously, with grief, she just would stay in bed and didn't want to get up. And I was more tearful than her. Ellie was angry, and I'd say the children were angry, which is symptomatic of grief. And the song Tears for Ellie came about, and I loved singing it. It was a real way of showing someone how much you love them. And she was a remarkable child, still is a remarkable lady. And that's who the song was about. They were breathtaking children. They were so strong. The day after Pearl passed, we took them into Brighton to buy clothes for the funeral, and I think we were in Marks and Spencer's or something like that. And the staff were pretty fascinated as to why I had 4 children with me and we're all buying black. And one of them asked, "What's happening? Why are we buying these clothes?" And Ellie just looked at the shop assistant and went, "My mother died yesterday. These are clothes for the funeral." And the shop assistant burst into tears and had to go and hide in a changing room. And within about 3 minutes, we were surrounded by virtually every woman in the store, just wanting to hold the children and protect them. It was a remarkable moment of how humans can be so human. And about 2 days later was the funeral. I remember it was quite quick because Pearl had cancer. There didn't need to be any kind of formality about that. And as her coffin was carried out of the church, what they didn't tell me was they were going to play Beverly Craven's Promise Me at such volume, and I lost it. I just lost it. The song is so beautiful, and I just was howling with tears as the children followed Pearl out. And I now know Beverly Craven, which is such an honour, so I feel it's come full circle. But the family are a remarkable family. They're all grown up now, and they've all got their own lives, and they're good, strong, wonderful human beings. And it was a real honour to do that for them, to be with them through that time. And I'm talking, it's a good 30 years ago now. I've experienced so many people say the same. It's such an honour to help someone through something like that, because it's not something you talk about till it happens. And Tears for Ellie came out of that experience. So thank you for asking, and I'm so happy you like that song. Phil Marriott, you asked, do I have any memories of recording the kids' show, Dear Heart? It was very, very BBC at the time, which meant it was very pristine, a bit like Blue Peter. Everything was, I'm not going to use the word saccharine, but very much pre-Watershed, that everything was based at an age limit probably of about 15 by BBC standards back then. It's what we'd call 8-year-olds now. All the humour was very, very young. I remember I was wearing specially made costumes. I was playing a superwoman in this kind of young people's sketch show, and I had to wear tight leotards and stuff like that. I know I enjoyed making it. It was nowhere near as groundbreaking as, say, doing Kenny Everett or French and Saunders, of which I've done both. But I'm glad I had the experience. I don't have many memories other than we were just working very, very hard. We had no feedback as towards humour because it wasn't done in front of an audience, whereas most BBC comedy back then, and I'm talking about 82, possibly 83, the comedy back then did have live audiences. We didn't. This was very much a children's show. It wasn't critically well received, probably because I'm quite an edgy cult type of person, and what we were doing was very mainstream, possibly middle class humour. But it exists. It's still there. It's probably playing somewhere on YouTube. I'm glad I did it. Full stop. That's my memory. Nothing negative. It was just one of those things that so belongs in the early 80s. Now, Christina, I picked up on your question earlier that you love my artwork designs and you have the lyric art. I love doing it. So Christina's referring to these. They're little doodles that I do. I have a few themes that I run throughout that relate to the album. So that's for Sheep Farming Barnet lyrics, and then I write 4 lines that are requested. This tends to be Changeling and Crimson Queen, and again this is mainly Anthem, and these are little love tokens that people send to people that they love. So Christine, you say you have 2 of those, and thank you very, very much. You wondered why I've never gone into fashion, as the fashion industry. I love jewellery and clothes, and it would be amazing if you designed some. Would you ever get round to doing it? Well, this is one of mine. These components I got in lockdown off Etsy. So these little Buddhas, which are absolutely beautiful, are only about 10 quid, and the blue jade beads are about 6 quid, and I put that together. And I always use really nice silver links. I like large clasps. That was very easy. So I do make my own jewellery. With clothes, and today I'm in my costume room, I tend to reinvent my clothes. It's something that I think people call upcycling sometimes. So for instance, this is a designer skirt, but I got it off the gold label in TK Maxx in Birmingham. So that for me is like a kilt, and if you go to TK Maxx and use the gold label, you can get some absolutely brilliant names, from Mau Mau right through to Stella McCartney. But most of the stuff I upcycle. This dress is an Oasis dress. It is leather. I bought it 20 years ago, and it was 10 quid. It's phenomenal on stage, absolutely phenomenal. As for making my own jewellery, I made that, which is a necklace that goes with a gold dress I have. That cost nothing to make. It cost about 20 quid in beads. But again, on stage, it's absolutely phenomenal. But if I was going to upcycle anything, I have these wonderful, wonderful Oasis dresses that are about 5 years old now. Those can be completely taken apart, made into top, skirt. I can add a bottom section, say, of black or pink silk, and turn that into a maxi, and I will one day. I always alter the clothes I have, partly being very small. I just don't see the point in buying certain makes. My bust is too big for Zara. I'm way too small to wear Marks and Spencers, who make things quite large. So I do upcycle everything I have. Would I go into fashion? I could only do it if I lent my name and my ideas to an existing brand. Fashion is cutthroat. It's a really difficult industry. Fashion is so hard to break and so expensive to break, and it has so much espionage, you wouldn't believe it. Up here, I've got all my English eccentrics collection, all silk, all hugely valuable, look after them really, really well. When English eccentrics used to have their catwalk show ready, they had to lock everything in a vault, and I'm talking like a bank vault. And by the next morning, they'd come into the warehouse and that vault had been broken into and the collection had gone. This is how fashion works at the top end. I don't want anything to do with that. A few years ago, George at Tesco named me as the inspiration for that collection. They didn't involve me, but they said they were tapping into Toyah energy and Toyah colours for a collection about 3-5 years ago. I would happily be involved with an existing line, an existing name, and would do a collection for them, because then I don't have the worry about the espionage, the theft, and also the sheer cost of it. I would love to do it because I do have these ideas all the time. But as a career move, no, I don't think so. Might do it with the jewellery, but not with clothes. It's just too hard. These people have to work so hard. Debbie Jean Williams, you said you read in a magazine in the 80s that I coached Johnny Rotten for a part in Quadrophenia. Is this true, and did the part go to Sting? It is true. I got Johnny Rotten through his screen test. I was doing the Steph role. Johnny was doing the Jimmy role. And he was fabulous. He was stunning. I found him a complete gentleman. He was a wonderful actor. But the problem is the insurers of the movie, and every movie has to have insurers and backers. They would not touch the movie if Johnny was in it because of his reputation. So the role went to Phil Daniels. And in a way, that was a blessing, because Phil is a astonishing in it. He carries the film. I didn't get the part of Steph, Leslie Ash did, and I felt that I was owed a role for doing this with Johnny. Frank Rodden, the director, asked me to get Johnny through that screen test, and I still didn't get cast in anything. So I insisted to Frank. I kept turning up at his office saying, give me a role, I deserve it. And eventually he gave me the role of Monkey. So that is true. Chris Williams, you ask, I love your Sunday videos. Do you do them in one take? Well, knowing that you can go back to Toyah TV Official and have a look at this on YouTube, Lark's Tongues in Aspect, I had to trick Robert into that take because he was playing something very, very difficult from King Crimson. So I went into a library, which we have next door in our offices. I set the cameras up. I didn't need to set lighting up because at 4 p.m, out of the 6-7 windows in that frontage, we have direct sunlight. I set up the chair where he sat and I said, we're going to go next door now, Robert. We're just going to rehearse tomorrow's film. And I took the first and only take, the first rehearsal. He got it right. It was breathtaking. Absolutely breathtaking. That was one take and it was a miracle. With last week's shoot, which was Girls, 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 I had to erect a complete screen across the kitchen, which the camera didn't see because I was hitting tennis balls. So I set that up. It took a couple of hours. I used my green screen, set it over the kitchen table. I shot what we were going to do and explained it to Robert so it didn't come as a surprise. We did about 3 takes of Girls, Girls, Girls. So I needed the rehearsal to be able to sing and hit the tennis ball at the right moment, right time. We went with the 3rd take. That was the take of that one. With Everlong, we used a corn snake, a live corn snake, and I didn't want that corn snake out of its environment. So we rehearsed that before the snake was brought into the building by the snake handler, so that we only needed to really do 2 takes. Sometimes we do get first takes, but I have to take into account that Robert is profoundly uncomfortable in front of a lens. He's doing these because he loves the reaction from the audience, and he's also supporting me with my ideas. I try to get everything in a first take by making sure that the day before we do a rehearsal. We don't do it on camera, we just rehearse the music and my movements so I can explain to Robert what is going to happen. Robert can just have enough. So I know with Poison, we shot at 8 p.m. the day before it was going to show, and we needed to get it right. And Robert probably needed for Poison, and it's a remarkably complex song to play for a guitarist. We did about 20 takes, and that was the only time we'd ever done that many takes. And we were determined we were going to get it right and make it right. So we just kept going at it. We were exhausted afterwards. So it depends, Chris, what the song is. If the song is just so obvious to play because it's been in our psyche for so long, like Enter Sandman, like Teen Spirit, those songs are in our psyche and they're just about directness. We can get those in 1 or 2 takes. Other songs, if they're complex, take a while to do. But we love doing them and we want to get them right. And we now know the winning ingredients. So if those winning ingredients aren't in there, we will keep going at it. So yes, we do rehearse. We rehearse the day before. And probably we will have a meeting about how the arrangement will be on the Monday before. But we then have the whole week to think about what we're going to do. I think about the visual, and then we shoot the day before. So thank you very much for that question. And we love doing them. There is going to be a time when neither of us are in the same country, and we're still thinking about what we're going to do when that happens. But, you know, film is creative and inventive, and we'll find a way. Thank you, everybody, for your questions this week. I have loved doing them. Your questions have been absolutely thrilling this week. I wish you all love, luck, health and happiness. We will see you tonight for Agony Aunts and tomorrow for Sunday lunch, which will be fabulous. It was going to be great. If you want lyric art, the details of how to get it will come up now. We're going out on the video of Sea of Sighs, directed by Dean Stockings, and I absolutely love this video. We were on the beach at Worthing when the tide had gone out. It wasn't warm, it was quite cold. And then we moved to a swimming pool in Worthing for a night shoot in the pool, with Sean Chapman doing my makeup and staying in the pool with me to keep the material all spread out. It was a great fun shoot, and I love this song. It's off Sugar Rush and it's called Sea of Sighs, Toyah and the Humans. And I will see you very, very soon. Lots of love from Toyah.